As the day at the shooting range came to an end, the young SEAL recruits gathered their gear. But their minds were still full of thoughts about the lessons they had learned. The quiet old man, Chuck Norris, had shown them something much deeper than just how to shoot better. He had shared the power of patience, respect, and quiet confidence. The recruits felt changed, as if they had been part of something important, something that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. After the final shots were fired and the last targets were checked, the instructor called the recruits together for a final talk. He praised their effort and growth during the day. Today was not just about hitting targets, he said. It was about understanding what true strength means. It's about respect, discipline, and learning from those who have walked the path before you. The recruits listened carefully, feeling proud and inspired. Many of the young men and women looked toward Chuck Norris, who stood quietly at the edge of the group. He had been a silent teacher all day, but now the moment came. For him to say goodbye, Chuck spoke softly, but with strong meaning. Remember, the lessons you've learned here are more than skills. They are values. Carry them with you in every part of your life. His eyes met those of the recruits, and they felt the weight of his words. As the recruits started to leave the range, they talked excitedly among themselves. They shared stories about how they had laughed at the old man at first, only to discover he was a legend with wisdom to share. They spoke about how their view of strength had changed, from loud and fast to calm and steady. This story would be told again and again in the barracks and training halls, inspiring others to look beyond appearances and value true mastery. One recruit, Marcus, paused to watch Chuck Norris walk away. He felt grateful and humbled. I want to be like that, he thought. Strong, calm, and respectful. Not just in shooting, but in everything I do. He knew that the lessons from today would guide him through many challenges ahead. In the following weeks, the recruits worked harder and smarter. They remembered Chuck's advice about breathing, balance, and respect. Their shooting skills improved, but more importantly, their attitude changed. They learned to slow down, focus, and value patience. They supported each other, knowing that respect was the foundation of their team. The story of the old man at the range spread beyond the recruits. Other soldiers heard about the quiet teacher who had come and shown true mastery without a word of bragging. It became a story about humility and strength. It's inspiring not just the new SEALs, but everyone who heard it. For Chuck Norris, the day was just another part of his lifelong journey. He believed that sharing knowledge and respect was the greatest gift anyone could give. He hoped that the young recruits would carry these lessons forward, becoming not just skilled soldiers, but better people. This final part of the story shows how true strength is more than skill. It is about respect, patience, and quiet confidence. The young recruits learned that greatness comes from steady effort and humility, and they would carry these lessons with them. Long after the shooting range was empty and the day was done, the day ended with a sense of hope and promise. The young men and women knew that the path ahead was hard, but with the lessons from the old man, they felt ready. They had learned that sometimes the greatest power is found in calm and steady hands, in quiet respect, and in the wisdom passed down by those who came before. And that knowledge would be their true strength, no matter what challenges they face. After the big reveal that the calm, skilled old man was none other than Chuck Norris, the mood at the shooting range changed completely. The young SEAL recruits looked at him with fresh respect. They wanted to learn everything they could from a man who had achieved so much and who still showed such quiet strength and focus. Chuck didn't waste time boasting or showing off. Instead, he began to teach, sharing his knowledge in a simple, clear way that everyone could understand. He started with the basics, explaining how important it was to control your body when you shoot. Your body is your tool, he said. If it moves too much, your aim will be off. The recruits listened carefully as Chuck showed them how to stand correctly. He placed his feet firmly on the ground, shoulder-width apart. Balance, he explained, is the foundation for good shooting. Then he demonstrated how to hold the rifle. His hands were steady, but relaxed, not too tight and not too loose. Chuck talked about breathing, something many recruits had never thought much about before. When you breathe fast or hold your breath wrong, your body shakes, he said. A deep breath, then slowly let it out as you pull the trigger. This helps keep you steady. He even showed them a small breathing exercise to help calm their nerves before shooting. The recruits tried it right there, feeling their tension ease. Chuck explained how focus was more than just looking at the target. You need to quiet your mind, he said. Don't think about what's around you or what others are doing. Just focus on your breathing and the target. Some recruits found this hard at first, as their minds were filled with distractions and competition. But Chuck was patient, encouraging them to keep practicing this simple but powerful technique. Then came the most important lesson: respect. Chuck said, respect your weapon and respect your target. Treat every shot like it matters. If you don't respect your tool, you won't treat it right. He told stories of his military days when every shot could be the difference between safety and danger. The recruits could see that his lessons were not just about shooting, but about life itself. After explaining these ideas, Chuck invited the recruits to try again, this time with his guidance in mind. One by one, they took their places and tried to shoot with the patience and calm that he taught. They stood with better balance, held their rifles more carefully, and focused on steady breathing. The change was clear. Their shots became more accurate, hitting closer to the center of the targets. Jason, the recruit who had been frustrated before, found himself shooting better than ever. He smiled quietly, realizing that rushing had been his problem all along. Emily, who had been shy to speak up earlier, felt proud as she hit a perfect bullseye for the first time. The mood was no longer tense but hopeful. The recruits encouraged each other, sharing tips and cheering small victories. Chuck watched. With a warm smile, he said, "You're all learning fast. Remember, this is only the beginning. Mastery takes time, but with patience and respect, you'll get there." Didn't want them to feel pressure, but to understand that steady progress was the goal. The instructor, impressed by the recruits' improvement, spoke up too. "What you learned today is what separates good marksmen from great ones. It's not just skill, but attitude." The recruits nodded, now feeling part of a team united by shared respect and learning. Later, when the drills ended, several recruits came up to Chuck. They asked him about his life, his training, and how he stayed motivated. Chuck answered with kindness and honesty. He talked about the importance of daily practice and staying humble. "No matter how good you get, there's always room to learn," he said. "Respect your teachers, respect your craft, and never stop working." As the day closed, the sun began to lower behind the hills, painting the sky with soft colors. The recruits packed up their gear, feeling tired but happy. They had come to the range expecting to show off their speed, but left with lessons about patience, focus, and respect that they would carry for life. Before leaving, Chuck gave one last piece of advice. "Remember, strength is quiet. The greatest power comes from within. Carry that with you, on the range and in your life." The recruits felt the truth in his words deeply. That evening, as they rested and talked among themselves, the recruits shared stories about the calm old man who taught them more than just how to shoot. They knew they had witnessed something rare, a true master showing the way with quiet confidence and respect. This part of the story shows how real learning begins when pride and hurry step aside. The old man's patient teaching helped the young recruits grow not only as marksmen, but as people ready for the challenges ahead. They learned that true power is not in loudness or speed, but in steady, respectful strength. And this lesson would guide them long after the shooting range was empty and silent. The moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. After the drills and demonstrations, the instructor decided it was time for a real introduction. The young SEAL recruits had been watching the old man shoot with quiet surprise and growing respect, but no one knew who he really was. Now the instructor stepped forward and spoke clearly to the whole group. "Gentlemen," he said, "this is Mr. Charles Norris, better known as Chuck Norris." A silence fell over the recruits. They looked at each other, confused and then shocked. Chuck Norris, the name was famous all over the world. He was a martial arts legend, a movie star known for his strength and skill. But no one had expected to see him quietly shooting at their range. The recruits stared in disbelief. How could this calm old man who didn't say much be the same person they had seen on television and in stories? As the recruits took in the news, some remembered stories they had heard. Chuck Norris was not only an actor, but also a real fighter. He had won many martial arts championships and had a long history of discipline and training. Many knew he had once served in the military, where he had learned skills that made him one of the best. Now, standing before them, he was showing the same calm strength that had made him famous. Flashbacks of Chuck Norris's past came to life in the minds of the recruits. They imagined him as a young man training hard in martial arts dojos, winning fights with speed and power. They thought about his years as an Air Force security specialist, where he had to be sharp, steady, and disciplined. The quiet man shooting with perfect aim was not just any visitor, he was a symbol of true mastery. The recruits' feelings changed quickly. Their earlier jokes and doubts turned into respect and awe. Some looked down, embarrassed that they had laughed at him before knowing who he was. One recruit whispered, "I never thought he was real. Thought he was just a story." Another said quietly, "To be that good at so many things, he must have worked hard every day." Chuck Norris stood quietly, watching the reactions around him. He did not boast or show off. Instead, he spoke gently to the group. "I've spent my life learning discipline," he said. "Whether it's martial arts or shooting, the key is respect for yourself, your weapon, and your target." His words were simple, but full of meaning. The recruits listened closely, knowing they were hearing wisdom from someone who had lived it. The instructor then invited Chuck Norris to share more about his experiences. Chuck told them how martial arts had taught him more than fighting. It had taught him patience, focus, and respect. He spoke about his military days, where every action could mean the difference between life and death. He explained how these lessons applied to everything, including shooting a rifle. The recruits were amazed to hear his stories. They asked questions about training, discipline, and how to stay calm under pressure. Chuck answered with kindness, reminding them that mastery was not about showing off, but about continuous practice and respect. He encouraged them to be humble and to always learn from every experience. One young recruit, named Marcus, spoke up. He asked, "Sir, how do you stay so calm when others are rushing and making mistakes?" Chuck smiled and said, "When you rush, you lose control. When you focus, you find strength. Take your time and trust your training." The recruits realized that the old man who had once been mocked was actually teaching them a life lesson. He was not just a shooter, but a mentor, showing them the way to true skill and confidence. His presence changed their day from just another training exercise to a memorable experience filled with meaning. As the sun began to set, casting golden light over the range, Chuck Norris offered a final thought. Remember, strength is not always loud. Sometimes the strongest power is quiet and steady. Learn to respect that, and you will be a better soldier, a better person. The recruits nodded, feeling the weight of his words. After the session ended, the recruits gathered in small groups, talking excitedly about what they had learned. They shared stories about Chuck Norris's fame, but also about the humility and skill he had shown at the range. They knew this day would stay with them forever. Some of the recruits found themselves thinking differently about their own training. They realized that true strength was more than speed and power. It was about respect, control, and patience. The quiet old man had opened their eyes to a deeper understanding of what it meant to be a warrior. The story of Chuck Norris at the shooting range became a legend among the recruits. They told others how they had met a man who lived what he taught. They talked about how he showed them that greatness was earned through hard work and quiet confidence, not through boasting or rushing. In the days that followed, the recruits practiced harder, but also smarter. They remembered Chuck's lesson about breathing and focus. They worked on their patience and respect for their weapons. And every time they struggled, they thought about the calm old man who had shown them the true meaning of mastery. This part of the story reminds us that appearances can be deceiving. The man who seemed quiet and slow was actually a hero with great experience and wisdom. He taught the young men that respect and patience are powerful tools, and that real skill comes from a lifetime of practice and humility. The day at the range became more than training, it became a lesson in life. The next part of the day at the shooting range began with the young SEAL recruits feeling more curious than before. They had seen the old man shoot with surprising skill and calm. Now, as the drills continued, they started to realize that this man might be more than just a quiet visitor. Yet some of the recruits still held on to their doubts. They whispered among themselves, trying to figure out who he really was. Some said he was just lucky. Others thought maybe he had a lot of free time to practice. But none of them knew the full story yet. The instructor watched carefully. He could see the recruits' mixed feelings. Some were still a little disrespectful. While others began to pay attention, the old man stood quietly by the shooting line, preparing his rifle again. He didn't rush. Instead, he checked his sights carefully, cleaned the barrel gently, and took his position, as calm and steady. Movements caught the eyes of everyone around. As the next drill started, the recruits lined up, ready to show their speed and power. They were confident, moving fast, firing bullets rapidly. Many wanted to finish quickly to impress their instructor. But speed brought mistakes. Some missed the targets entirely. Others hit near the edges, or hit the metal in a way that made strange sounds. The recruits could hear the shells dropping to the ground, their faces tense with concentration and sometimes frustration. Meanwhile, the old man took his turn. He raised his rifle slowly, took a deep breath, and focused on the first target. The shot was perfect, a clean hit in the center, and the second and the third. Each shot was smooth and precise. There was no hurry in his actions, just quiet confidence. The contrast between the old man's calm approach and the recruits' hurried firing was clear. The recruits watched, some unable to hide their surprise. They whispered, "How does he do that? Never rushes, but he never misses." The instructor, standing near, nodded silently. He knew that skill was more than just fast shooting. It was about control and focus. One of the recruits, a young man named Jason, was feeling a bit frustrated. He had always been proud of his quick reflexes and fast shooting. But watching the old man's precision made Jason doubt his own style. He thought to himself, "Maybe I'm trying too hard to be fast, and I'm forgetting to aim properly." He glanced at the old man, who looked calm and steady as always. Suddenly, the instructor called everyone to stop. He walked over to the old man and said, "Would you please demonstrate your technique for the recruits?" The old man agreed without hesitation. He took his rifle, stepped forward, and began a slow and careful drill. Every movement was smooth and measured, he explained in a low voice. "Shooting well means controlling your breathing. When you rush, your body shakes, and your aim suffers. Take your time to focus." The recruits listened, watching closely. The old man showed how to stand with feet firmly planted, how to hold the rifle with steady hands, and how to breathe evenly. He talked about the importance of respect for the weapon and the target. His words were simple but powerful. It was clear he had spent many years learning and practicing these skills. The young recruits began to realize their mistake. They had laughed at his slow pace, thinking it was a weakness. But it was actually his greatest strength, his careful, respectful approach made him a better marksman than anyone rushing to finish first. One recruit, Emily, spoke up quietly. "I never thought about breathing and patience like that." Others nodded, their eyes wide with new understanding after the demonstration. The instructor said, "You have all been focusing on speed, which is important. But without control, speed is useless." He turned to the recruits and said, "Learn from this man's example. Master your weapon, respect your skills, and never rush your shot." The old man smiled slightly but said nothing more. The recruits lined up again, this time calmer and more focused. They tried to copy the old man's slow and steady method. Their shots became more accurate, and some even hit bull's eyes. The mood changed from loud and confident to quiet and serious. They were no longer just competing with each other, but trying to improve themselves. As the day went on, the old man remained a quiet teacher. He did not speak often, but showed by example. The recruits started to approach him after the drills, asking questions about his techniques and experience. He answered kindly, but briefly, encouraging them to practice regularly and respect their tools. The story of the old man's skill began to spread among the recruits. Some admitted to feeling embarrassed for judging him too quickly. They learned a valuable lesson about humility and respect. The old man, with his quiet strength, had already become more than a visitor. He was a symbol of mastery and patience. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the range, the recruits packed up their gear, still talking about the day's lessons. They felt they had learned something important, not just about shooting, but about attitude and respect. They realized that true strength was not always shown in speed or loudness, but in quiet confidence and skill. The old man left the range without fanfare. The recruits watched him walk away, some feeling inspired, others thoughtful. They knew they had seen something special that day. The experience had changed their view of training and what it meant to be a SEAL. This part of the story shows how respect for experience and skill grows. The young men started with laughter and doubt, but ended with admiration and a new sense of discipline. The old man taught them that patience and control are the foundation of true mastery. Lessons that would stay with them long after the range was empty. Early one bright morning, a group of young men arrived at a quiet shooting range. These men were new SEAL recruits, fresh and full of energy. They were eager to prove themselves, excited about the hard training ahead. The sun was just rising, and the air was cool and fresh. The recruits moved quickly, setting up their gear and checking their weapons. They talked loudly, laughing and joking with each other. They felt strong and confident, ready to take on any challenge. Among the recruits, there was a mix of excitement and nervousness. Some talked about how they would finish the course faster than anyone else. They teased each other, making fun of mistakes and showing off their knowledge. It was a time full of energy and spirit. But then, something unusual happened. An old man drove quietly into the parking lot and got out of his car. He was not wearing any uniform or special clothes. He looked calm and peaceful with a gentle smile on his face. The recruits noticed the old man right away. Some of them whispered to each other. They laughed softly and made jokes, wondering why an old man would come to a place like this. "Maybe he's lost," one said. "Or maybe he wants to see if we can teach him a thing or two," another joked. The old man didn't answer or join the talks. Instead, he walked slowly toward a bench near the shooting line. He took out his own rifle from a simple case, cleaned it carefully, and began to prepare. The young recruits watched him closely. They couldn't believe an old man could handle a rifle so well. He moved with calm and steady hands, not rushing at all. His eyes were focused and his body relaxed, but ready. Some recruits smiled and whispered again, "He looks too slow. We'll beat him easily," one said with a confident grin. Another added, "He's probably just here to watch and learn." The instructor, a serious man with years of experience, blew his whistle and called the recruits to attention. He explained the day's exercise. They would each take turns shooting at steel targets far down the range. The goal was to hit the target quickly and accurately. The recruits nodded, some eager to start, others trying to hide their nerves. Then, unexpectedly, the instructor said, "Let's have our guest go first." Everyone looked surprised. The old man calmly stepped forward, raised his rifle, and took aim. The first shot rang out clearly. The bullet hit the target right in the center. The old man lowered his rifle and adjusted his stance. Then came the second shot. Another perfect hit. The recruit stared in silence, took his time, breathing deeply and moving with care. Each shot was precise. He didn't rush like the young men. Instead, he showed skill and control. Whispers started again, but this time mixed with respect. "Maybe he's better than we thought," one said quietly. "He's slow, but those hits don't lie." The recruits realized that this man knew exactly what he was doing. They began to pay attention, watching his every move. The old man didn't say much. He simply focused on the target, never letting his concentration slip. When it was their turn, the recruits took their places and began shooting quickly. Many fired fast, but missed or hit the target off center. Some struggled to control the recoil, or reload in time. The noise was loud, with bullets striking metal all around. The recruits felt the pressure of the timed exercise. They wanted to prove they were the best. But the old man had set a high standard. After the first round, the instructor asked everyone to stop and gather around. He told the recruits to watch closely again. The old man was ready to shoot another round. This time he moved even more smoothly. His breathing was calm, and his eyes never left the target. The bullets hit bullseyes again and again. The sound of his shots was steady and sure. The recruits began to feel a mix of emotions. Some were amazed, others a little embarrassed. They realized they had underestimated the old man. They thought he was slow and weak, but he showed strength through experience. One recruit whispered, "I wish I could shoot like that." Another nodded silently, watching the calm man with new respect. The sun climbed higher in the sky. Warm light touched the faces of the recruits as they stood quietly. The old man continued shooting, teaching without words the value of patience and skill. The instructor smiled, seeing the change in the young men. He knew this day would stay with them for a long time. The old man packed his rifle carefully when he finished, turned to the recruits and said simply, "Shooting is not about speed alone. It is about focus, control, and respect for your weapon." The recruits listened, some nodding, some still thinking deeply. The old man's words were clear and strong. As the recruits watched him walk away, many felt a new understanding. They had come to the range thinking strength meant being fast and loud. But the old man showed them it meant being calm and precise. He taught them that true skill comes with time and practice, not just youth and energy. That day, the recruits learned an important lesson before their real training had even begun. They learned that respect is earned through hard work, and never to judge someone by their age or appearance. The quiet old man had spoken loudly through his actions, showing them what real mastery looked like. The shooting range was no longer just a place for practice. It became a place of learning and respect. And the story of the old man who shot with perfect calm would be told many times, reminding everyone that sometimes the strongest power comes in the calmest form. As the young recruits packed up, they glanced back once more. The old man's presence had changed their day. They felt ready to face the challenges ahead, carrying with them the lesson of patience, respect, and quiet strength. And in their hearts, they wondered about the man who had shown them so much without saying a single boastful word. To you.